Oh yeah, it's podcast time. Sam and I are gonna be a little weird tonight because I got stuck at work, so we're doing this semi-live at work. So it's gonna be a little loud. You're gonna hear a little background noise from our friends at Union Jacks. We'll probably have to do a couple of pauses throughout the night for customer service, since that's what I'm actually technically here to do. So anyway, Sam, what's new, buddy? Wait, hold on. We're still playing the outro played out. Intro, whatever. So much shit. Okay, so here we go. Sam, what's new, buddy?
How long was that?
That was the normal intro length.
Yeah, feels longer.
Well, because we couldn't hear it because the way I got it working functioning
Touche.
tonight. So anyway, we skipped last week because you were out of town at a wedding. I had a hunting outing. So I guess happy accident that we didn't have opposite weeks of our different activities going on. So we only missed 1 week. And I was all hopped up and excited to have a show tonight. And then one of our staffers got a sick baby, and so she stayed at home, and so I came in to cover. So you're going to have to deal with weird audio tonight for everybody listening, but it's been a hell of a couple of weeks. And what's happening with you, buddy?
Oh, not much. Just getting my ass kicked at work.
Oh, this is not as hot? As hot? Or is it still as hot?
I mean, it was mid-80s through most of this week.
This little bit of rain we got today is supposed to apparently cut it back. Like, we're supposed to get down. It's supposed to knock it over 70.
Yeah, like
again.
Saturday night or Sunday night, it's supposed to be a low of like 42, I think, when the last I saw.
Gotta turn the heater on.
Everybody's going to smell that funky smell of the...
Your burnt dust.
Yep.
When you get your heater turned back on.
Skin particles, all that good fun stuff.
So I'm trying to think, like, there's been so much stuff. Like, I was joking with the Compass guys today. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to do a local show with the craziness that's going on federally. Feinstein died since last time we got together. And I don't generally get excited about people dying, but that's one that I'm glad for the sake of Californians. It's fucked up, man.
She voted the day before.
She's been in office that fucking long. She missed, like, half of this year already? From being out for medical reasons and this, that, and the other.
Shingles are a bitch, man. I can speak personally for that.
She
was twice my age.
She was publicly speaking about how she was ready to do the job and take care of her business, even though she'd already signed her power of attorney over to her kid. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Feinstein died. Yeah. McCarthy gets kicked out of office. Pelosi loses some weird office thing. Did you hear that story?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand it. Apparently, it's just been like a running, just kind of like standard, what you call it, extension of kindness or something. Just
like
to allow them to have, it's like some kind of separate office outside of their own office.
Right. It's so in the Capitol building itself, there's a handful of like offices, and like the Speaker's office is in the Capitol. But then like outside of that, almost everybody they're in one of the adjacent buildings. There's 2 buildings that have the tunnel system that they talk about.
Right.
Because that was the other one, dude. Pulled the fire alarm to stop a vote. That was a whole other crazy thing.
Yeah. He didn't pull to stop a vote.
Whatever. He pulled it, and it...
Well, whatever. You just said what happened, but whatever. It didn't happen.
Whatever reason he pulled the fire alarm in the building next door, because he was running late for a vote. But...
said it was an accident.
Anyway. So apparently there's like a couple of really teeny, like closet-sized offices that like special persons. Usually the Speaker is one of them. That's like right outside.
It's like the former Speaker as well.
Right, but it's like right outside of the
chambers,
the actual chambers and stuff like that. So you can go have a quick meeting. You don't have to do the 10-minute walk or whatever, and go through the tunnels and go to the building next door and all that stuff. Which also they're apparently, I don't know. I saw a bunch of memes with a bunch of booze. Apparently, they showed a bunch of booze in there.
No.
A bunch of liquor bottles. When they cleared it out. I don't know. I saw memes on it. I don't know. I didn't really follow that one. I'm sure most of them do have a few bottles of some nice.
I don't think that she's known to be some hardcore drinker or anything, but courtesy was the word I was looking for earlier. It was like courtesy extended.
Right. So
I saw that she had pointed that out. She was like, I extended it to the previous speaker before me.
Right, but she's not.
They gave her like 1 day.
I guess she is the previous speaker, but she's not.
What do you mean you guess? She is. She was.
She is. Yes, she is the previous speaker. I apologize, but she is not the. She's not the leader of the minority party. Hakeem Jeffries is.
Right.
So usually one of those things goes to you have the Speaker of the House, which is the leader of the majority party in the House, and then the minority leader usually has one of those offices too, and he didn't because Pelosi had it. Because a lot of times the former Speaker is the leader of the minority party at the time.
Yeah.
And so whichever one, whether it's the former Speaker or the leader of the minority party, I'm not sure what the tradition, quote-unquote, is, but that was a whole story. McCarthy got kicked out the first time in the history of America that we.
I didn't realize that was the first time. Apparently Boehner was closed, and I guess it was Jim Jordan that was like getting ready to call for.
What I heard, what I thought I found most interesting, what I heard on it was that, I remember hearing it in the McCarthy confirmation part and doing all this stuff and trying to get him the speakership. One of the concessions that he gave to Gates and those guys was that he would have the motion to vacate back on the table with a very small threshold to get
only
it.
Take one.
Right. Where since Pelosi took office, there was no motion to vacate in play at all. Pelosi had gotten rid of that after the Boehner one because she didn't want to be put in a position where she had to worry about that. And so for a period of time before this, there was no option for a motion to vacate. And then the last time there was a motion to vacate on the table, it was when Boehner got.
I think it's ever been one person.
Not the one person part, but
I think it had to go to like a floor vote, basically.
Well, the way the story read to me was that when Pelosi was speaker, there was no motion to vacate option. Period. Didn't matter if.
Yeah, apparently it's like a really weird thing. It's not like a no confidence vote. It's just like motion to vacate.
Yeah.
Which is really odd thing.
Which to me, like, I think the bigger thing that's crazy to me is that the partisanship is so specifically, uniquely consistent, and it's not new. It's not in the new hyper-partisanship world. It just is.
Yeah, it's gotten worse.
No Democrats voted for McCarthy in any of the 15 rounds of voting for when he was going to get the seat, just to get it over with, or anything. No Democrats voted to save McCarthy from losing the seat. And, like, I understand the general function of principle and stuff like that, but it's like, again, if I understand what the continuing resolution was and how it worked, is that McCarthy went and worked with some Democrats to get a couple Democrats to vote for it so we could get this continuing resolution so we could keep funding the government for 45 more days or whatever. And it's like, well, if you're a Democrat, it's like, well, yes, we're going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries, obviously. But at some point we're going to go, well, Hakeem's never win because no Republicans are ever going to vote for him. McCarthy only needs 2 votes. If we just have 2 of our, super secure Democrats that don't have to worry about getting in trouble for voting for a Republican for Speaker,
I don't think it would have done any good because that rule that all it would take was one person.
Sure.
So next day, all Matt Gaetz has to do is walk in and do this shit all over again.
But then it goes to another floor vote.
No.
The motion to vacate doesn't kick him out. The motion to vacate forces the vote to replace him.
I would see it as a futile thing to even.
But that still exists with whoever they replace him with. If it's Jim Jordan
and
Scalise.
Steve Scalise.
Who've been kind of the top of that. Like, it's like even if it's one of them, they're in the same spot.
I read there's a number of, centrist Republicans that are, advocating for removing that rule, which I'm assuming they're going to have to vote on. I don't really know how.
You got to get
kind
the
of rule
speaker
that
in place
is.
first. I don't know.
Right.
That may be.
Trump was floating the idea of wanting to step in and be speaker because I guess there's not technically a rule against it. Boebert?
Not Boebert. Marjorie. MTG, whatever. MTG. She'd already started the petition to place him to put him on as an option to vote for.
I didn't realize the thing. You don't technically have to be a sitting.
Vote for me. I'm running for Speaker of the House. Vote for Seth. Let's do it. It's the clown show again. I can run a clown show. Sure, why not?
Why not?
I mean, but again, that's the point. My point going back though is that you had You just needed like 3 Democrats to vote not to remove him.
To do what?
And it's at least status quo, and it's a functional status quo where the Democrats got some things out of McCarthy over the last couple months. Obviously, this continuing resolution that included some Ukraine aid or whatever, because that was the Democrats' big deal. At least part of their Democrats' big deal was continuing funding for Ukraine, which that's one of the big things that Gates and the Freedom Caucus or whatever is pissy about, is they don't want any more money to go to Ukraine. And again, I'm not trying to argue the merits of that case or whatever, but just like, the Democrats got what they wanted by getting this continuing resolution through because McCarthy was willing to work with them. It's like, well, whatever the next Republican is going to be less likely to work with you too. So a couple of you guys vote for him so he doesn't lose his seat so we can keep moving.
I mean, I don't know if there was any kind of like offer of concession between the Democrats and McCarthy, but I read a thing that McCarthy was basically like, I'm not making any kind of deals with the Democrats.
Right. He's not going to make any concessions to keep the seat, or if he runs again, to get elected into the seat. But I don't know. Like, it's like, I don't disagree. The Republicans, especially the Freedom Caucus part of the Republicans, are just here to watch it burn. They're willing to let the whole thing fall apart in an attempt to make a point, whether it's a valid point or not. They're willing to watch it burn.
I think what I would do in his position, months ago, whenever it was, when they were trying to vote him in as speaker, that went to like, it set a record for going to like 15 rounds. They were there till like 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at that point, after like 10, I'd be like, you know what? Never mind.
Pick somebody else.
Yeah, fuck it.
I don't want it. You guys have made it clear that I'm not part of this. You don't want me to be part. But the thing is that nobody else.
I mean, you're higher up on the list in that. Well, you're like 4 or 5 steps down from if the president dies, vice president dies. Is speakers 3?
Speakers 3.
Okay.
But even that, I mean, you're top 5 most powerful people on the planet, or at least in the country, as Speaker of the House.
What powers do you have?
I mean, you're like when it comes down to it, whether it's personal life or policy or government, or what's the number one thing that always comes down to at the end of the day? When you boil it all down, when it gets right down to it, what's the number one item?
Huh? Say again?
What's the number one item on any bill, on anything else? What's the number one item? Like, no matter what it is, no matter what the bill is trying to do, what's it always boil down to at the end of the day? Budget. Well, at least theoretically, functionally, Congress is supposed to have the power of the purse. They have the ability to withhold funding, to change the funding, to do all that kind of shit. So it could be...
All right, Congress, not the House.
Well, okay, so him and the Senate Majority Leader, or the Vice President, I guess. But I mean, still, it's like you're looking at who else has, because just in function in the room, the order bills get, the subcommittees bills get to, the membership setups of all the subcommittees. That's all you. You get to pick that. You get to make all those decisions. I would argue that it's top. It's at least the second or third most powerful person in the country, if not top 10 in the world. I'll roll it back from 5 to 10. But either way,
I mean, it's cabinet members that have a lot of fucking power.
Sure.
I would argue they could do a lot more.
In their subset, I would say, like within their
thing,
if they're the
transportation secretary,
right, transportation secretary, the
Commerce.
Department of Defense or something like that.
Yeah.
So but they're super powerful in their subset. Like Buttigieg as transportation secretary has a lot of power in the transportation realm, but and certainly can swing it around as far as like getting people to vote for different things to help his cause and stuff like that, or encouraging and discouraging through the powers that he has. But at the end of the day, it's really only the transportation department and what they're doing. And it is, especially when you have like an infrastructure build back better, all those different infrastructure spending plans that you get to be the last signature on all those checks. You have a lot of power and authority, and but again, I would still say the Speaker of the House is higher than.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to back. The dysfunction of the automatic partisanship, I think, is the grossest part about it. The specifics of McCarthy or not, the idea that there wasn't even really an actual true consideration for the idea that some Democrats might actually vote for McCarthy, or to vote not to expel. Like, every Democrat voted to expel McCarthy.
Yeah.
But it's the 8 Republicans that voted that are the problem, at least in the coverage. Because they're the ones that were supposed to not vote for him because of the way the thing works. Because of the way the parties work.
Right.
But the problem is that the Republican Party is kind of fracturing into the big part of the Republican Party and this minority of Freedom Caucus crazies. And so it's not really, what's my consistent complaint on the show? I don't know what the parties mean anymore. This falls into that category. I guess the party, well, at least the Democrats are good at functioning as one block, where the Republicans aren't
so much.
They hadn't been when they had control of the House. They hadn't been, because then you had the progressive caucus that was throwing a little bit of whatever. But at the end of the day, though, the progressives, for the most part, when Pelosi was speaker and stuff like that, AOC and the progressives usually fell in line when it came down to the actual vote of it. They might raise a fuss,
right? But
when you get to voting on stuff, they vote the way they're supposed to. So I guess, they're, at least recently, they've been better at it. Now, the other side, in the Senate, it's a whole different animal. The Senate's much better at it. Like, if McConnell, or not Mitch McConnell says Republicans are voting this way, it's happening. All 50 of them, or whatever it is right now, are going to vote that way, because that's what McConnell told them to do.
Yeah.
Another guy who's old and needs to retire, and I will mildly celebrate if he dies in office too, because I'm
cool.
I'm not wishing for his death. Just like, if that's
you're just going to celebrate it.
I'll just a little bit. If that's the only way we can get him out of there, sure.
All right.
I wish he'd quit. He'd retire. He won't retire because it's a Democrat governor of a state, and the governor gets to pick his interim replacement. And the power.
He's just waiting until the next election cycle.
The power of the incumbency makes it likely that whoever the.
Next year? I know it's already started.
Yeah, Kentucky gubernatorial.
Yeah,
it's on. I've been getting a bunch of ads on fucking.
The thing is, I didn't know when it was about this November.
It's 24. No, it's 24.
Oh, it's the next year. Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit on it.
Well, I've been getting ads in my streaming shit.
Where?
Which I don't understand. I don't understand that at all. It's like, you can target the shit out of these things, and I am not in Kentucky. I cannot vote in Kentucky.
It's close enough, maybe. Just like, our local news, whenever their school's out, we still cover parts of Virginia and Kentucky.
Yeah, maybe. I guess that's what yeah, but still, you got to think, if you're going to put some targeted ad out there, you're not going to target all of WBIR's market base for a Kentucky election, because you're only going to get, how much? Yes, they do cover some Kentucky, but as a percentage of the total number of eyeballs that WBIR shows to, it's got to be 2% are in Kentucky counties.
I think maybe we're just looking at people that could be driving around in that area.
Yeah, but it's got to be. I got to be able to vote for it.
Right. You'd just be trying.
I don't. As I said, I don't understand it either. I thought it was strange that they would be so cavalier with their spending on that.
Maybe it's the marketing people just being dicks, and it's well, you can either go for 50 miles of a targeted area or 500 miles.
Yeah.
Fuck it, just do the 500 miles.
You get it either way.
For only $5 more a month.
Yeah. You're paying for it either way, so you might as well take it, I guess.
Right. Cast that net as big as possible.
Sure. Did you see the JFG sign story?
A little bit. They weren't sure where it was going to go, or it's uncertain what's going to happen to it. I think maybe I saw.
Yeah, so there's a couple different parts to it, I guess. The main one is whatever Foods, who owns JFG now, tried to take it down in 2010 or 12, and a bunch of people freaked out. And Knox Historical, whatever, got on board, and whatever the owner company was yeah, we don't really care, but we don't own that property anymore. That's the Shriners Cabela Lodge or whatever is up there, and it got sold. That property got sold.
On that side of the river. I was thinking it was closer to downtown.
And so there's a developer that's going in to develop something on there, and so I guess the company who owns JFG took it down and put it in one of their warehouses, because they had a lease with the Shriners people to have it up. But the Shriners people don't own the property anymore, so the lease is moot. And so I guess there was some question on whether the new developer would come in and just tear it down, and so they just took it down preemptively. And so, but it's just weird, because apparently the guy who runs PR for the food company was the same guy in 2012 when all the craziness happened, when they tried to take it down that time. And you would think that he would remember it a little bit, enough to be put a press release out or something saying, hey, we're taking the sign now, we're going to put it in storage. We no longer have rights to that property. We're not sure what the plan is, but nothing. It just one day there was a crew out there taking it down, and people were
most people probably wouldn't catch that anyway.
People were freaking out.
They would just hear it was getting taken down.
I'd say the people that freak out would catch it because they're the people that probably would have. I mean, most people, handful of people saw it in person or saw a post on it, but I would say a lot of people would have done it from. Anyway, I'd say a lot of people that care about that kind of shit would have seen it somewhere. In so far as like their Compass subscribers or their News Sentinel subscribers, I think they do. I think News Sentinel got a press release on it. They would have run a story. I think WBR would have run a quick little ism on it, like, hey, whatever foods is taking down the JFG sign, it's going into storage. Here's a little blurb.
Yeah, but I mean, especially like News Sentinel, but even like WBR, like I wonder how big of a reach, they really have these days.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I mean, I agree, but I get plenty of stuff. Like, I get plenty of WBR stuff in Facebook of people that share it into Facebook.
Yeah.
Whether it's direct from WBA or not, like all the coverage on this sheriff's deputy getting shot and killed. I mean, that was most of that I was getting links in.
Capitol I was surprised, like the Capitol even flew flags at half staff for it.
I mean, I didn't realize. It's a. I don't know. You know me. I say weird phrases, but it's kind of surprising that this is the first time in almost 40 years that we had a cop that at least for Knox County Sheriff's Office that anybody's died in the line of duty.
Oh wow, yeah.
And so it sucks. Bummer. I'm not trying to downplay the severity of what has happened a week ago, but the fact that it's been 39 years since the last time it happens, kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I was a little. There's a couple things I thought was a little weird in the whole thing. Like there's two different kind of parades, for lack of a better word. Like I was here, and I had to go to the other store when I guess they took his body from UT where he had been before he died to, I guess, the funeral home or something. And there was a whole big procession. They shut down 40.
I hear about that.
It was a whole big thing. They shut down 40. I was trying to get across town, and it's like, I don't know. It's a little bit much. Maybe I'm being selfish. Probably am. It's me. Then again today they shut down the interstate as they drove him from whatever, and the whole funeral and stuff was today. Now that one makes a little more sense. Like I was here this morning when not that funeral, but a funeral. I think his name is Rose. Anyway, no, the other guy, the civilian that died in the process. Yeah. His name is Rose. But Rose is over here, had a funeral let out, and I was watching them. They were pulling out, and the lead car, not the hearse, but the lead car had a siren on it. Huh. Not a cop siren. It was a different sound than any of our police sirens, but there was definitely a siren out when he was trying to get out into traffic and get people to stop. And so, again, I think it's amazing. It's an amazingly positive bit that it's been this long since it's happened, but it sucks nonetheless. So that's that story. And I'm sure, like, that was another weird one this morning while I was here. I was sitting in here and I heard one whoop, not a whole bunch of sirens, nothing, just one whoop. And I turn around and I see out front there's 3 cops in one of the old cars, one of the old
Crown Vic.
Yeah, one of the old Crown Vic style ones, and then 2 of the newer ones follow this car in the parking lot across the street, and all 3 of them out of the car, guns out, immediately. And I don't know. My assumption is, with no facts, obviously, but my assumption is that they're all a little, even though the city and the guy that died was county, but they're all neighbors and friends, for lack of a better word.
Right. There's a little animosity between the city and county as
sure,
well.
But at least for this incident, I'm guessing that everybody's a little tense. They're a little bit more jumpy than they were a week ago because they weren't thinking about it as much as they are right now. So, all right. So what else we got? We done federal. We got one. We got 2 local stories in. Funny one that I was looking at today is this week, Planning Commission reviewed American Cannon's middle housing proposal and refused it. Well, it was a tie vote. It was a 5-5 vote. I guess somebody wasn't there.
Didn't hear about that.
And which is odd because 9 times out of 10 when the city is the one putting in something like that too, because it goes, if you and I did it or the city does it or something like that, it goes to planning commission and it's usually rubber stamped if it's a city thing, and then it goes back to city council for a vote on it, but it didn't make it out of planning commission, which is kind of weird. But
so now she has to come up with a new plan, or
she has to go back in and repitch it, make some adjustments and resubmit it. But it's like 2 months before she gets a chance to do it, so that's problematic. It's weird. This whole conversation is just weird. It goes back to my stupid, angry, like, everybody wants growth, nobody wants to deal with growth. Like, everybody wants the positives of business and entertainment and all the cool things that come with a growing, vibing city, but nobody wants it to actually be in their yard. Like, the NIMBY aspect of it, it's too much.
Right.
It drives me crazy. Getting it from all sides. Yeah. Like I said, we're going to have some interruptions because I'm working, and little man just got his tonsils ripped out of his face yesterday.
Uh-oh. So getting with ice cream. Did they do the adenoids too?
I don't know.
No.
I just
apparently it's common. Like, I'd never heard of it.
$3,000 for it.
Yeah, it's just not. I mean, it's surgery.
Yeah, but I got no coverage. Like, I got an in-network discount. I didn't get. Like, I don't think I got any actual.
It just goes towards your yearly.
Right, which the individual's $2,500. Or I got to pay. I haven't paid anything in, except my premium.
Right.
But so the yearly is $2,500, and that was the first thing I've done for them
before they start picking up money.
And then I got to pay 20% of whatever's left over.
Right.
And so it was like 27 and some change. Plus, I'm going to get another bill from the anesthesiologist, which they'll pay. I got to pay 20% of that. Which I guess I should clarify with them before I get it, so I don't try to write up a check for 20% of what they send me, because they might have already taken it, or I don't know. I got to figure that out. Insurance is bullshit, is the moral of the story. It's just fucking bullshit. It's a racket. Paid fucking $10,000 to those fuckers this year, and got a couple of annual visits, a couple of sick visits that I pay like $50 a piece for. It's like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. We need AC to come back on the show.
I mean, it's that trade-off. If you want to have a higher premium, your deductible will be much lower. And outside of that, there's no way to keep your deductible down. It's like, do you want to pay less a month because you can cross your fingers and hope shit never happens, or be ready just in case something happens that you don't have to spend a shit ton of money and spend $5,000 before they start picking up the remaining $500 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the only bonus for me is that there's 4 of us, and it's a 2-parter, so it's like $2,500 per individual, or like $6,000 for the family. So if I get hit by a truck and we had the tonsillectomy or whatever, right, then I only had to pay 20% of the tonsillectomy.
Right.
So I only had to pay $1,000 if I had just gotten hit by a truck first and racked up $7,000 in medical bills myself first.
And yet we still have some of the worst health outcomes in the world.
Well, it's big, like, I mean, you don't want, like, the thought had crossed my mind when they, like, because, like, when, I understand it from their perspective, but one of the nurses called me like a month ago. She's like, just make sure we're on the same page here. It's going to be about $2,700 day out. I was like, I got no coverage? She's like, no, you got some coverage or whatever. And I was like, I don't understand. She's like, well, you can talk to your insurance company about it, but we bill it to insurance, and they send us back to us that the day you're here, if you don't give us $2,700, we're not doing the process. Yeah. And that's why I have bad health outcomes, because like this one's not. It was semi-elective. I mean, it's elective, I guess. You don't have to do it.
Huh?
We didn't. It's an elective surgery.
Oh, a doctor never recommended they have them taken out?
I mean, it was. We discussed it with his general practitioner.
All right.
He, sent us to a ear, nose, and throat guy. Ear, nose, and throat guy was like, meh. Like, literally.
That's exactly why.
It was like, meh.
Exactly. That's why the insurance covers it, because it was a meh. It wasn't. It was actually recommended by a doctor. I'm assuming it would have been billed differently.
I don't know.
I mean, it's the same difference between diagnostic versus when you go get like a test. It's actually like diagnostic versus preventative. Diagnostic, they don't cover. Most preventative things are covered at no cost for a lot of preventative care. But some of those you have to be like, oh, we only do preventative tests, quote unquote, for whatever exam for 40 to 60-year-old males or whatever.
Right. It's just I don't know. Point of view is that I like the actual financial part. It made me question on whether I wanted to go ahead and do it.
I mean, I wouldn't have unless a doctor said he needs this.
I mean, it was a.
Now, like maybe he'll get less sore throats.
Okay. I mean,
I don't know.
You're not wrong, I suppose. Anyway, got my kids' tonsils taken out. Paid a bunch of money for it because we felt like it was the correct thing to do for him and his long-term health. Whether a doctor recommended it or it was a fully.
I still got mine. I'm doing just fine.
Fully cosmetic. I do too. But the missus has hers, and she gets sick all the fucking time. Every time anything's going around, she gets it worse than everybody else.
The last time she saw a doctor, and has a doctor recommended she had them removed?
She's had it a couple times, but it's for as an adult, it's a lot bigger of a fucking process.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Weird.
It's harder to do. It takes a lot longer to recover from that kind of stuff. And so it's been, I don't know, recommended, suggested, maybe not. Referred. I don't know what the technical word you want to use here is.
That's what the insurance looks at. That's exactly what the insurance looks at, is whether or not you had a referral.
Yeah, we were referred by his general practitioner to the ear, nose, and throat people.
Right. Then the ear, nose, and throat people, as you said, gave a meh, which it sounded like the ear, nose, and throat people are doing the surgery, so then they had to do a referral to this oral surgeon or whatever.
I don't know. It's a good question. I didn't follow the line that hard. I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. That I think the referral we got to was to the surgeon, who would do it if he thought it was reasonable.
I mean, it's all in verbiage, literally, and insurance.
I wholly disagree with you on that, but that's not really important. The moral of the story is the fact that cost is making a real question, whether it's this one in particular. But I guess my point I was trying to get to is that I think a lot of people look at the cost of doing this as a big fucking deterrent, whether it's an elective tonsillectomy or actual real medical care. And that's why we have shitty outcomes, because 9 times out of 10 it's when it's fucking emergent instead of something that could have been done and dealt with many years sooner, because people don't want to spend the fucking money.
All right, and that's
to do all the stuff.
Someone with insurance, let alone people that just don't have insurance.
Right.
Or borderline, you're probably close to it, what they consider underinsured, where they have insurance, but it's like a bare bones policy.
Right. It's enough that I don't have to pay a fine on my taxes or whatever the fuck it is. So
they haven't done that for a long time, but sure, whatever.
Whatever it is. The premise is you have to, like, I'm under the impression you have to have an insurance. You have to have health insurance. You just have to, because you can't pay for it out of pocket.
For most people, yeah.
Yeah, but again, I'm in the age bracket where it's not that big a deal. I don't have a lot of shit going on yet. Young enough and generally healthy enough that I don't have a bunch of fucking problems. But I'm paying $1,000 a fucking month, which is relatively reasonable for a family of 4 nowadays.
Been there.
It's a lot of fucking money, and I'm sitting here going like, I got other bills to pay too. And then when I have to use the insurance to get something done, I throw another $3 or $4 on top of it and deal with all that kind of shit. Like, I understand why. Like, I fully understand why people
the first time in your life you're running into this shit?
No, but it's still bullshit. Whether it's the first or the 500th.
I'm just sorry. I just kind of got the impression like this is new.
Speaking of other elective things, like I can't get a doctor to give me a recommendation for a vasectomy. I had to pay that out of pocket too.
That's elective.
I mean, get pregnant again and have another kid. That's going to be expensive. It's not elective anymore then.
I don't understand what you're arguing then.
I don't know. What's the fucking point? I guess is what I'm arguing. What's the point? Like, I legitimately, I cannot. Like, I get the premise.
There's no medical necessity for getting a vasectomy. So yes, a vasectomy will always be an elective surgery.
Okay, but what's the point of the insurance if it doesn't do anything for me?
It's that broad safety net, quote unquote.
Right. I get it, but I don't. That's my problem. Like, I understand the premise, but it doesn't feel like much of a fucking safety net.
There's a reason insurance companies make a shit ton of money every year.
It's a fucking problem.
They're taking in more than they give out.
Right, and they play they play this great little show game between them and the hospitals and the doctors and 55 other fucking people between me and the service that makes it really fuckery and more expensive than the actual service is the other part too. That's been my whole stance on this whole thing is I think it's the cost of getting services from doctors and hospitals and stuff like that is exceptionally inflated because of all the shit.
Some of it, yeah.
I think reasonably, yes, a fucking neurosurgeon that's going to go in and cut your head open and pick out 2 cells in the middle of your brain and not fuck everything else up in the process, should get paid a lot of fucking money to do that. And everybody that's part of the team, and it should be an expensive procedure. Don't get me wrong. But for 99% of the population, for 99% of the stuff, it's like a $50 copay feels to me like what it should cost just to go. If I'm going to go see a doctor, be like, hey man, I got the sniffles.
In a grander scheme, it's essentially what you do here as a business. I mean, the cost of an item sitting on your shelf is inflated because you have other costs that you have to pay.
You're
whether
right.
it's rent, etc.
Right. You're right. But you fucking pay for it when you come into the shop and buy the shit. I don't bill somebody else who makes a deal with me on how much I'm going to charge you for it, and then you don't pay a percentage to that person in some weird little fucking scheme. Well, you come in, you don't like the price, you walk out the fucking door and go somewhere else and get it if you really want it.
Right. And a lot of hospitals and doctors' offices have just a cash offer. If you're willing to pay cash up front and they ain't got to fucking deal with insurance, it's usually a discounted rate, especially if you pay right then and there. And they don't have to put you on a payment plan or whatever.
Right, you're talking about like 4 different things at once here. And you're not helping illustrate your point on why my misunderstanding of what the point of fucking insurance is the problem. I don't think...
I'm just countering your
right.
You're bitching at their inflating prices.
Okay,
I'm saying yes.
Let me back up and let me re-establish my scenario in what I was attempting to say, and I understand I pitched it poorly. Okay?
Thank you for recognizing that.
I think for 15 minutes of my doctor's time at a reasonable markup to help cover the overhead of his office and all the other things, I think $200 an hour for his room is a reasonable rate. That gets him paid, gets his nurses paid, gets his lights paid, like all the normal businessy shit that we're talking about.
You could have stretched that shit into an hour.
He could have.
You know what I'm saying? You could have stretched that 15-minute interaction.
So you're telling me that the doctor's office...
No, I'm saying like they have a flat fee for a office visit, period. Doesn't matter if you're in there for 15 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, it's still going to be whatever fee for a quote-unquote office visit. And you don't think the
flat fee is based partially on how many people they can move in and out in one day? And that they depend on the idea of getting 2 or 3 people in an hour to make that flat fee?
I'm sure they semi-equated that, yes.
And I also assume that they probably charge the insurance company $50 or something too on top of the 50 of my copay. Because that's what copay means. I'm paying partial, not all.
Right.
I am co-paying with my insurance. Right. So maybe, in the sense of maybe $100 an hour. I don't know. Again, yes, I understand they mark up but it's also a service. You don't really mark up services. Generally speaking, you just set a price for services.
It's not an apples to apples comparison, no. I was just trying to give you the example that there are behind-the-scenes costs that go into the total cost of what it takes for...
Right, and one of those is that person that they have on staff whose whole job is to coach it in and send it and deal with the insurance companies and go back and forth. There's a whole subset of the industry who is just a numbers calculator and paper pusher to get it from point A to point B and then back and to see how much you actually have to pay in the process. I think if we had some sort of like McDonald's menu of general pay system when you go in, that was the norm, I think you'd get people getting more care and taking their hospital visits, not hospital, but their doctor visit more seriously. Going in and spending the time. Like, I know if I went into it for a massage and they say it's an hour massage and they say they're done in 30 minutes, I'm going to be pissed. If I get an hour of my doctor's time, I'm going to take that hour. I'm going to talk to him. Bring up something I maybe didn't think was that important, but I'm still trying to fill my hour. I think there's some sort of, like, and this is a Trump thing, which I don't mean to agree with Trump on anything, but that was Trump made the point to say, like the idea that you don't know what you're paying when you walk in the door with a specific agenda, it's just fucking weird.
I can understand not knowing the cost of like the visit itself, but I mean there are like random things that come up when you tell them like, hey, I've got this weird feeling in whatever appendage. if they run a test, that incurs a cost if they've got to do that.
And they could do that in the McDonald's.
So going into it, when you say I want a checkup, they had that flat fee. But when you go and say I've got a checkup, and like, oh yeah, my arm's also broken, and I've got this and this, that you're then adding on to it.
Just like you supersizing your fries and adding a McFlurry to the end of your meal. It's an additional cost, and it's right there in front of you, and you know it when you're doing it.
Never mind. There's no way for them to give you a breakdown of the probably at least 70 different tests that could be done to you, depending on medical tests. You go into a doctor's office. Again, I was trying to say, you tell them you've got this or this or this going on with you. You just went for a checkup. They don't know what the fuck you're coming in for. They think you're coming in for a checkup.
Okay.
You then add on that, oh yeah, and I've got this and this and this. As a doctor, they're going to say, you know, if they're concerned enough about it, and it sounds serious enough, and they're like, well, we need to run a test for that. But at the same time, when you go and want a checkup, they don't give you like 4 pages. When you say, okay, I got this and this, like, okay, well, on page 2, this tells you how much is this going to cost.
I don't see why they couldn't.
And I agree, they're working towards it. And I think they passed, was it like no surprise billing or something like that? They passed that a couple years ago. There's been an effort to try to find some kind of middle ground for that. And I'm with you on that. But at the same time, I'm trying to play devil's advocate, and you understand that it's just like taking your car in to get fixed. You're like, hey, my engine light's on.
Sure.
And there's a cost just for running the scanner on that.
Sure.
That scanner could then make them have to run a test on this. Like, oh,
and
let's say this.
When you were a service rider, what did you do? Somebody came in for their...
And where I worked, we didn't go past 1 hour of diagnostic time before we stopped and told them, hey, this is where we're at. Most dealerships don't do that.
Even if the diagnostic time takes 20 minutes, do you go ahead and start fixing it?
No.
You say, hey, this is what we found. This is what we think we need to do. This is how much it's going to cost.
No. And you, as the patient, are the consumer, and you can say, hold on a second, how much is that going to cost? And sadly, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people are just like, okay, well, you know, I want to find out what's wrong with me. Okay, go ahead and run that test. I agree that I don't know if I would consider it shady upon them to be like, oh, that's going to be $1,000. Instead of being like, okay. Because from the doctor's perspective, like, they want to find out what's wrong with you. They want to run that test to determine what is wrong with you. But at the same time, you are the patient. You can get the fuck up and walk out and like, I want a second opinion. You don't have to let them do that test to you. You have that option. You can say, hold on a second. I understand people need to be more knowledgeable on it and be like, hold on, what's that going to cost? Is there a cheaper option? Same thing with, you know, they prescribe you a certain pharmaceutical. You're like, are there other options? Right. Is there generic available? Is this the only drug that's recommended for this?
Are there some off-label shit we can do? Maybe I'll lose the weight.
When was the last time this pharmaceutical rep came in to recommend this to you as the preferred drug for this ailment?
There is a lot of mess at play.
Right. But I think it's more to a lot of people, you know, they trust their doctor and they're like, okay, if this is what I need, have it done. I experienced the same thing in the automotive industry. A lot of people like didn't want to hear the if, ands, or whats about it. But
I don't care, just fix it.
Right. They're like, okay, if that's what you need. I mean, they trusted me enough. We weren't trying to screw them over or anything. Like, hey, this is what we found. Like, this is what we need to replace this. Or this is what we need to replace to fix your car.
I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, obviously.
Yeah, there's no simple solution.
But
I agree
I'm
that...
really struggling with the realities of what it is, I suppose, is the best way to put it. Like, I really don't...
I agree. It's a clusterfuck of why the cost is overinflated. Because time and time again, in all these studies that are done, you know, in other countries where their consumers don't pay that much, and even the government that is paying in for their, you know, government-paid health insurance or whatever, are still paying lower cost and still have better health outcomes.
Yeah, I agree. It's rough.
It's just a lot of people grabbing for bigger shares of the pie of the fat stack of cash.
Somehow it's guaranteed money, and I think that's part of the thing too. Like, there's a way the way you can somehow guarantee to make a ton of fucking money if you're in the insurance side of the game. And I think that's part of the mess. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, they're in the business to, not to be profitable.
Right.
I mean,
that's why the whole pre-existing conditions argument, which I think's, I see the problem with it on a societal level, but on the business level, it's like, I'm not going to insure you if you already have cancer, because you're telling me I'm going to pay $100,000 immediately to you, and you're not going to say okay to me charging you $20,000 a month in whatever it is, premiums. So I'll just refuse you for the pre-existing condition. Which again, it sucks. I don't know what the solution is. I don't understand. The Knox County Schools, moving on. Sorry. Knox County Schools bought like 5 acres, 200 yards west of all the Farragut schools.
Okay.
They're trying to build a new school out there. They've been talking about it for a couple of years, and they budgeted this year to buy the land.
To blow up the kind of the Choteau area, the further west of Knox County.
Yeah, they need the capacity for sure. It's just the only place they could find to put it was right there. It's like, well, you already have a school right there. I mean, obviously they could, because there's an elementary, middle, and a high right there in the Farragut complex, right? There's just a middle and a high.
For some reason, I thought there was something kind of weird, like they almost have like a primary.
Yeah,
they have an intermediate. I think they have an elementary, intermediate, middle, and high school.
I think they're just fancy and they say intermediate and high school instead of middle school.
I want to say it was like kindergarten through like 4th. I thought it was like a weird breakup as to what I experienced.
So presume
you know where we were.
I don't remember what we were talking about. Consequences. Consequences of doing it this way because we got to do it this way. I'm just happy to do a show, man. I missed you. I enjoy arguing with you over stupid shit.
I didn't make it to the wedding last weekend anyway.
Oh,
Those
come on the
allergies.
woods with me.
Oh, I wasn't feeling good.
Oh.
I totally forgot. Like that Wednesday before was we got flu shots. Within like a day or two, I started getting like a sore throat on one side. So I think it was a mixture of just being like worn the fuck down, getting the flu shot, and allergies on top of it.
Yeah.
I just felt like shit. Like I was like low energy. And just didn't want to do anything.
I guess I'm ready. I am ready for this weather to turn. I'm so ready.
It feels good outside now.
It does. So, anyway.
Hippy skippy.
It's fall finally. Got Beer Fest coming up. All those guys did the Pride Parade today. The Pride Parade still went on. Downtown.
Oh, I thought it was
Pride Fest was this.
Oh, yeah, it was 5th and 6th.
They did it a little different. Like, I don't really quite understand. Like, because they originally they said Knox Pride said they weren't going to do it because of the law, and so they ended up doing it anyway. Because I don't know if it's part of the different stuff getting struck down or whatever. But they did it anyway, and I've become one of those people I bitch about.
Yeah, I think like a state or federal judge of that area said it's a law that's unupholdable. Like basically told the state legislature like the way you wrote this law is unenforceable and really like unreadable from a legal standpoint.
Right. But so I don't know what I mean, a parade ain't something you can throw together. So this is something that it seems to me like they never stopped planning on doing it. They just announced they weren't going to do it.
Well, I'm sure it's something they'd been planning for a while anyway. I guess they've just probably, all right, we've got all the plans in place. Like, we can cancel it if need be, but if not, we pretty much have everything ready to go.
Yeah, that's fair. But they announced that they were canceling it, and then they uncanceled it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say outside, trying to bring in like special guests, which special guests may have, conflicting stuff. They're like, I'm either going to be able to come, or if not, I'm going to, go do a different one, or I've got something else going on.
Yeah.
Say outside of that, I mean, as long as I'm sure they probably already had the permit, from months or from 6 months here prior, yeah.
Which is weird because you cannot close down Gay Street except for like 3 things, and the Pride Parade is one of them. They do a 4th of July parade, they do a Christmas parade, they do the Pride Parade.
Rossini Fest shuts it down. I want to say they were...
But Rossini Fest gets to shut it down on a grandfather clause. Other than that...
Huh? How are they grandfathered in? They haven't been doing this shit that long, have they?
It was only a couple years ago when they changed the ordinance.
I thought there was a couple times they shut down maybe just part of Gay Street for something like the First Fridays type kind of thing.
Like, I guess it's like if it's not... Maybe I'm conflating a couple things. If it's not a city event, like if the city is doing it for a parade because it's the 4th of July parade and the city is the presenter of said event, they can do it, but if for non-city run events, Rossini and a couple other ones are the only ones that can still do it. Like if you and I wanted to do a thing, right, if we wanted to put an event on Gay Street and shut down Gay Street, we can't do it.
Right.
And then there's some other shit that I'm learning, which is fucking bullshit, but it's the way it goes. There's like the CIBD district, which is Gay Street proper, where you can you get open to the public drinking and on the sidewalks kind of shit. You can do down there, but you can't do it anywhere else in the city. Huh. So for like Rossini Festival, they're allowed to have alcohol and alcohol sold and consumed out on the street, even though
it's not roped off in any area, is it?
I don't know what the deal is, but it's it's a hurdle that I'm now running into, because my plans for my event in Happy Holler, we're planning on doing it very similar to Rossini Festival as far as like logistically, but it only applies to Gay Street.
All right.
And then there's special permits if you're doing something on a city park, which like Market Square counts as a city park, and you can do stuff that way. So like when we did Sundown, that was a city park. It wasn't a thoroughfare, I guess, or whatever the technical whatever. So I'm gonna probably have to try to talk somebody into putting in getting them to write an amendment to include Central at Happy Holler into this special district so that we can do stuff.
Worth a shot.
Yeah. I guess Old City is part of the district too already, so the Old City can do stuff currently.
I'd say they're grandfathered in. I'm sure they've had random shit going on down there.
Yeah, I remember they used to do a couple of things here and there. I mean, with the stadium coming in, I would think. I mean, if I were the businesses down there, I would do every home game, or at least every like weekend home game, like Saturday day home game. I would be like shut down the intersection and shut down, was it Jackson, I guess?
Yeah.
Shut down Jackson from Central all the way to the stadium so people can come and go and like just. I mean, I think the city should just do it, period, without some big permit crazy thing for the people down there. I think it's a logical thing to do. Because you can't park on most of that stretch anyway. That being said, the biggest parking lot's underneath the bridge, which you'd have to shut down traffic to that, so I guess that doesn't work. I don't know. But it's going to be a fun game. I went through all my bullshit with the city trying to get the store open, and I guess I enjoyed myself, so I dove straight back in to do a whole other big process, or I'm going to have to go through.
You still got some fight in you.
It's like I don't get me wrong. I'm trying to make some money. This is an investment in my own business, and trying to grow our business and make more money, as well as help our neighbors out, and as a district, make it a more popular district where people come and hang out, and it becomes a place like Market Square or the Old City where people come and do people know that's a good nightlife spot, and I want to create our neighborhood into a better nightlife spot, because that'll make me more money. I'll be honest on the front end of the thing.
Right.
And if I make more money, the city makes more money because I pay more taxes. So why I have to just go completely crazy, jump through hoops to try to do things seems counterintuitive to me.
Well, I mean, shit, all it take is it's a nice letter to whomever, just be like, hey, I want to shut down this street. Like, yeah, okay, sure.
No, I'm not opposed to like permitting process and stuff like that, but all right, so like one of the things I want to do as part of it is the soapbox derby, right? I understand that there's risk involved in that. That is a semi-dangerous activity. People can hurt themselves participating in it, but they want to come and measure the hill and make sure there's enough runoff for the race to end and stuff like that. Like, what like, obviously,
why would they want to think about that kind of logistics?
Obviously, it would be in part of my plan that I don't intend to kill anybody. And should you review
I don't think that's anybody's plan. But they probably also think that like these people that want to put it on probably haven't measured the grade of the road and thought about and
actually, I have a guy
done the actual engineering.
Prior to them asking for it, I have a guy working on it anyway. But they wouldn't accept my.
I mean, how many variables of it? Like you get a 450-pound sumbitch on something that he's greased the shit out of the wheels and put graphite all over the axles. I mean,
that's one of the headaches I got to figure out, because I got to figure out the rules of the cars and the testing to make sure that they're.
And this is exactly why the city has parameters and wants to be sure of it. Because I'm assuming if somebody gets injured, it's not gonna. It's going to be on city property if you're on the road.
No. I mean, it'll be on city property, but the city won't be liable for it. As part of my permit, I have to carry insurance for the event, and that insurance has to include up to like $1 million on behalf of the city. Like like they have to be a co-writer or a co-beneficiary of it.
I mean, I'm assuming if it came down to it, a good enough lawyer could figure out a way to sue you and the city for it.
Certainly.
Again, because they're co on that insurance policy, yay? Or no?
No. My insurance would extend to cover them.
Ah.
Not that they would have any... They wouldn't be signing off on anything. It's just the insurance that I would be purchasing for the event. Which actually, that's a lot more reasonable than I expected it to be. When I did some, at least cursory shopping, we'll see what it gets when I get down to the brass tacks of it. It's going to be, I don't know, I'm excited. I think it'll be cool. It's just going to be a lot of work to get it off the fucking ground. And it's going to take some... I mean, that's the one that I'm going to have to get an ordinance change to do what I want. Because I want it to be like a Rossini or a Sundown that you can hang out and walk around and do all the whatever stuff. And you can walk from point A to point B with your beer. But Steve Noel's in. He has no issues with open container. So, I mean, as long as I have my permits and stuff. But
right.
Like if I went down there right now and said, "Hey, Chief, drinking a beer on the street," he'd probably arrest me.
Yeah.
But if I had my permits and stuff, he'd be like, "Cool, man, get after it." So, we'll see. It's got a lot of work. It's got a bunch of stuff. It's just, I don't know. I feel like to me that when you have a division of the city that is special events, the job of the special events should be to help get them off, not to make them harder to do.
You see it as being hard to do. They're looking at it as how to make it function well.
I don't think they care if it functions well.
All right.
They're checking it against ordinance. That's all they care. What does ordinance say they're allowed to do? What does ordinance say they're not allowed to do? They're not providing me like again. It's the same thing with the city inspections and all that stuff. It's like just can you provide me with a checklist so that I can do it correctly, so that I know what you're looking for, so I can fix it and make it right and not have to do it 50 times. But it's like I don't know what they want. I'm just guessing. It's like the IRS. They know what I owe them.
See if you can get somebody from Codes and Enforcement on the episode.
It's going to be a thing. Don't worry, I'm on it. Right. It's going to be a lot of stuff.
Why don't you put a call into the comptroller too? Since I'm
comptroller's active, man. Comptroller's on Kyle Ward case.
Is it a local?
Yeah, I found their office. Like I saw it.
Last time I went on, I can't remember if it was the city or the county website. Like I found a flow chart or whatever of the breakdown of everyone. And it said we had a city one, and you found the job advertisement for that, and I'm like, well, wait, what the fuck?
Well, I think
the only I could find was the state comptroller.
I think it's an office of the state, and they just have a local. I don't think the city has their own comptroller.
Well, I thought that's what the job ad that you found like a year or so ago.
You're right. I don't recall, but I think
that's what I never could figure out. I'm like, I swear it says our city or county has a comptroller, but then I can't find anybody.
The one I found it's a state office. It's an offices. It's right. Offices for the state comptroller.
I think it's Trey Hargett, maybe.
Is the comptroller?
I think it's the state comptroller.
No, Hargett is. You might be right. No, Hargett's the Secretary of State, isn't he?
Maybe.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Went to the Secretary of State website. That's a fun little jaunt.
Is it?
I mean, it's kind of interesting. You look up, if you know a business name, you can look it up. You can find the ownership. You can go through a lot of records on there.
Oh.
Pretty quickly and easy. There was a previous nonprofit in Happy Holler that name for the nonprofit that used to be at Happy Holler. And it's still it's dissolved, so I could take the name if I want to. The guy still is active on their Facebook page. He's not active doing anything, but he still owns it.
Yeah.
So I messaged the Facebook page to see who it was. I'm like, hey, I'm Seth. I run this thing, and I was curious what's going on. He's like, oh, feel free to post whatever you want on here. It's like I don't really want to post it on here. I want the whole thing. And I don't know how to go through that process. I'm gonna message him next week sometime and ask him. It's like, hey, I think that's a good solid name for our business district, and I'd like to use it. And instead of starting a fresh Facebook page with the same name, which I can do,
right,
will you just give me control of this one? See what he says.
Yeah, worth a shot.
There's not a ton. There's only 1,500 people that follow the page anyway. The last time he posted anything,
decent number though.
Yeah, and they're obviously people that are interested in Holler. So,
right.
Yeah, but last time there was anything posted to the page was like 4 years ago. All right, we talked about the cop thing. We talked about the federal thing. That dude from New Jersey, all the bribery. Did we talk about that in the last episode?
Oh, Bob
Yeah, that's a fun story. Apparently, some more stuff came out as far as like his wife with the car thing. You hear about that part of it?
I don't think so.
Like she was gifted like a fucking Mercedes something convertible from the Saudis. I think it was the Saudis or Egypt. Because Egypt was the
I think he had like some kind of ties to Egypt. Yeah.
Apparently, she needed a car because she killed somebody driving down the street in Bogota, New Jersey. There's a city in New Jersey called Bogota, and she hit a guy jaywalking. The police said it wasn't, whatever. But there's some weird stuff on the case too. Like apparently, they didn't test her at all. Didn't bring her in for questioning after the event. And so she hit the dude. Somebody came and picked her up. And she went home. Guess it damaged her car enough that she needed a new one, and the Egyptians
it's not something you would usually go downtown for. You would give your statement right then and there, and they're like, okay, like
I'm pretty sure
you have
get
information if you have more questions.
You would at least get some sort of testing, some sort of sobriety testing.
No, not unless there was a suspicion.
All right.
I mean, all right.
I think you would.
I think you would
at night.
Unless
on a main street in a downtown area, you hit a pedestrian. I would say that I would bet that it's kind of standard ops
no,
when you fucking killed a guy.
But it's not.
Okay. I guess my assumption is wrong then. So either way, she got a new car and from Egypt and actually she wasn't married to him at that point either when the accident happened. She got the car after they got married. Thing. Some weirdism on that. I don't know. That's a crazy ass story all over. Gold bars, cash, and car. Just a weird story.
In this day and age, it's not surprising. There's a lot of people that keep cash and gold bars. Did you hear about Costco selling gold bars?
No.
Yeah, apparently it's like online only. It's like I was reading a story on it yesterday. I think it was either like Politico or Reuters maybe that was talking about how they like reached out to Costco and like I guess they tried to get on the website and like since it's unavailable right now, it's not even a price, but people said it was going for I think close to $2,000 for a bar.
That's cheap.
And there was like I guess it's got some kind of weird design on it. There's like two different designs, but I guess the times that it's
what is the weight of said gold bar?
1 ounce.
Oh,
I think 1 ounce. Yeah, I think 1 ounce. But it's actually below, or it's actually like $200 above what an ounce of gold would be going for normally.
You're right.
But apparently, like Costco doesn't say like how much, or haven't said like how much they've sold or how many times they've or when they restock or anything like that. But I guess they put it on and once they put it back up online, it sells out within a few hours of whatever amount they have. But they're limited to like 2 bars per Costco customer or whatever.
I mean, at least traditionally, it's been a good investment.
Depending on who you ask.
Hedge against inflation.
Not necessarily.
I mean, if it's still only $2,000, it's not doing a good job. 'Cause I remember a couple years ago, it was like $1,600 an ounce. If they're selling it for $2,000, that's $200 over like market. That means it's only gone up.
Right, but it's still a volatile market of precious metals. I mean, and when inflation goes up and people start, quote unquote, freaking out, and everyone's like, "Oh, put money in gold because it's so safe." Who are the people making money on that? The sellers.
Fair enough.
So when you have this inflated like idea of, "Hey, you better buy gold," like anything could happen, and oh, this is so trustworthy. I still say shit hits the fan. Who the fuck's gonna trade that shit?
Yeah. So Costco gold is not good. I don't know. That's funny. It's just a funny thing that they're selling it.
Oh no, I've just never been a big fan. If I see fucking infomercials about buying gold and all this bullshit, that just reinforces that thought in my mind that much more that it's a fucking just ploy.
Yeah, I own like a 1/4 ounce.
Yeah.
And I need to get rid of it.
Most money managers say, have a diversified stock portfolio. They don't really recommend just say dump all your money in gold and silver and platinum.
I mean, one part of gold that is true is at no point is it not hold some value. Because even as a functional metal, it is very useful for a lot of things. And so if the shit hits the fan...
but useful to whom? Well, exactly. Shit hits the fan. You're starving. I'm like, I'm going to give you a bar of gold for, all the corn that you have. I'm like, no, I'm going to keep my corn. I can't fucking eat that gold when I'm starving.
True. But depending on how said person collects their corn, they might need... I don't know.
I mean, good luck trying to break off a chunk of that bar.
I mean, it was a functional payment method for a while, but
yeah, I guess PC used, but I mean, it's all in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, it's shiny. You can it always holds its shininess. Yeah. That's why it's special.
Yeah.
What else is happening? Went up to Chuck Swan, saw a few butts. They ran off as I was getting in there.
Yeah. As you were walking to it or driving in?
As I was walking in.
Because you're heavy-footed? Were you trying to be quiet?
No. I got a shed that I got on a string. It's hanging off my bag now. So as I'm walking, that's most of what you're hearing is I'm just rattling.
A shed?
Yeah, pair of antlers. Shed antlers. So I was trying to do that. I was doing my different calls and stuff. Heard some things, but not sure what I heard. But alas.
Just put on some scent spray or anything like that?
I put on some nonsense.
All right.
I descented myself as much as I could. But we'll see. It's a little early, I guess. AC said he talked to the wildlife agent on the way out, and he said that there's none of the acorns have started dropping yet. So once the acorns start dropping is when we see them a lot more active.
Yeah.
So second day I wandered into a spot in the dark, a different spot, which happy accident I guess. I didn't mean to. Like I set up and I was sitting there and I was chilling and I was doing some calls, making some rattles, doing that stuff, and when there was finally enough light to see, there was a pile of acorns at my feet. And I said, well, damn. I found an acorn spot, so let's see if that does anything. It's kind of neat, though. There's an old cemetery down there, just one grave.
Huh.
There's a bunch of them, like a bunch of different places I've seen that.
There's probably a bunch more down there. There's just only one headstone.
Yeah. Well, there's a signpost. Like, there's a signpost TWA put up that says whatever cemetery,
right.
And it's like the person's last name, and then I walked in and I found the actual headstone, and it's just the person's last name.
Right.
Or the person's full name.
Right. So, it's probably their family plot where a lot of people are buried there.
Yeah.
So I've been to a number of cemeteries, and you really just kind of see like the remnants of what used to be some kind of stone on the ground that's just been like weathered over time. There's no longer any kind of like what we would recognize as like a headstone, but there's bodies down
just
there.
Just a rock, yeah, sure. I guess you think it though. There's got to be like everywhere. Like,
hell yeah.
Maybe not as much in. Especially like I love my.
There's a lot of unmarked graves.
Well, I love my what's it called? Time Team. It's a BBC show.
Right.
And it's like it's kind of jealous. Like it's just people's backyards, their gardens, as they say.
Right.
And they're digging up Roman buildings and shit like that in their backyards, all that stuff. There's so much archaeology over there. Like you could just pick a spot and start digging, and you're gonna find something. Yeah. Like every project, any roadwork project, like the first thing they have to do is like they have archaeology teams that have to go through and see what's there. And sometimes they'll stop projects in their tracks because they got to fully excavate a site and do all that shit.
I mean, same thing in Greece and Rome.
Yeah.
Or Greece and Italy. A lot of Spain. I mean, yeah. Just because there have been civilizations there for thousands of years.
Forever, yeah. There's a reason that a lot of these cities and towns are where they are.
Just in America, we just don't give a shit about the indigenous that were here, and they're like,
well, and they
don't worry about it. Just go and put your highway down.
They don't leave as much archaeology.
No one laid claim to this yet.
They didn't leave as much archaeology either. Like there are the mounds and stuff around here that most of them have been at least more recently protected. So maybe they weren't in the past, but
I think even in Europe, like you've pretty much got like a window. Like it's all right, you got 30 days to try to find something. Like otherwise, we're going forward with this.
Yeah, it's got to be fucking tough. Like it's just got to be tough when you got a growing city like London or something like that just to try to function.
I saw something about like, and it might have been that same show or something that there's like a lady in England who like kind of had this like weird suspicion that this certain king was like buried in this area, and it was like in a parking lot where like the parking lot was kind of like named in a very similar name. You know what I'm talking about?
I know the story. I don't think it's the same show, but I have seen some stuff on that.
Yeah, and it just happened to be like that's what it was like. Everyone, I guess, there were a lot of historians and archaeologists that had been looking for this like famous king's like burial place,
right. And it's in a car park.
Yeah, it's in a car park
in Boston, apparently.
No, this was in England.
I know. I was
sure.
just laughing at our bad accents.
Oh, okay.
Car park sounded awful Boston-y for what we were trying to do. What else happened? See here.
Yep, you hear about all the bed bugs in Paris they're finding? It's kind of freaking them out because they've got the Olympics coming. Was it next summer?
Yeah, have you seen the commercials, the Peyton Manning commercials for the Olympics?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. He's got it's just like this ridiculous, like he's pitching the opening ceremonies, like that's the whole thing. He's like pitching the opening ceremonies. And it's like a blimp that's made out of a baguette, and it's really dumb. Like it's proper Peyton Manning humor, and it makes me laugh every time I see it because it's Peyton. But no, I hadn't heard about the bed bugs in Paris.
It's Paris. I mean, a lot of major cities have issues with it. Like New York has issues with it. Damn near every other year or so. Or people putting their mattresses out at the road and like spray paint them just to make sure no one tries to like pick them up and take them. Like, hey, don't take this. There's fucking bed bugs on this shit. I mean, they're fucking hard as hell to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're getting down to like crunch time of like
When is it? Next year?
Like summer,
Summer? Yeah. Not the approaching
yeah, essentially
summer?
They basically got like 6-7
Summer
months.
24?
I believe so.
Sorry, I'm doing math in my head. I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was 2020 in London. Who did the last summer?
Beijing. Or was that the last
I think
winter?
I think it's just the last winter.
Well, and they did a summer right before that then.
I think that was the London one.
I'm saying Beijing.
No, Tokyo.
Because Beijing had a summer, and then like
Tokyo,
6 years later had
Tokyo did
winter.
Did it a little bit later, I think.
I don't remember.
Anyway,
I like the Olympics.
they used to be better. I kept up. I used to have most of them. Like figured out like, oh, it was the winter of this and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, they're fun. Coverage sucks. I just hate the coverage. Like I like the stuff. I just the coverage just generally
Coverage
sucks.
is crazy, but I mean, even in like the general aspect of it, like most cities and countries that have it, like lose money on it. They spend a shit ton of money. Was it like 6 to 8 years prior, just trying to like woo the organizers to have it be the host city.
I mean,
and then all of a sudden they like add in all these arenas and all this other bullshit and infrastructure, and then it falls into disrepair within 5-10 years because it's not getting used.
It depends. I mean, I would say France. Like how many? Like Paris has what? They have 2.
That's the thing. I mean, some major cities
clubs.
have some of it.
I mean, Atlanta did well with it because they basically just upgraded all of their facilities for all their pro teams.
I mean, I know like Brazil lost a lot of money on building up for their Rio Olympics. Same thing with the World Cup. I mean, they built a fucking stadium in the middle of the goddamn jungle that's not going to get used, or at least to the extent, to fill up the stadium or anything like that. Because I think you had to take a fucking boat ride to get to it.
It'll get fucking swallowed by the jungle faster than the next time they do an event there.
Right.
Cost a gajillion dollars to de-jungle it so they can get in it. But I don't know. There is a thought process to why people want it so bad. I don't get it.
I mean, it gives you exposure. So, I mean, you kind of hope that it's a good investment, but I think pretty sure like 9 times out of 10 of like all these big major events, like it doesn't come out to work to your advantage.
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand why you spend the time and energy on it. Like I could see it again. Like if you do it right.
I mean, I don't know if some of the economics of it goes into also, your kind of like peripheral economics of, restaurants, hotels, etc. Making money off the influx of people coming in.
I'm sure there are people that have done the numbers like pretty far out.
Yeah. But I think like for the city itself, outside of businesses that aren't affiliated with the city, like the city government or the country at large tends to not really reap the rewards of said event.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's a thing. I don't know.
I mean, it's going to happen every year. So I mean, everyone's like, well, fuck it, might as well like at least try to make it us again.
I still, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Like for the U.S. sake, when the U.S. hosted the World Cup, there was a boom in interest in soccer domestically.
Yeah.
It didn't quite hold on for as long as I guess they hoped to turn us into a national.
There was a little bit of a boom, and instead I realized, I guess, like Pele, before he retired, came and played in America. Like, I didn't even think we had American soccer leagues.
Pro soccer leagues, yeah.
In like the 70s or whatever.
Have you been to a
MLS? No.
No. Have you been to a Knoxville 1 game or anything?
No.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good setup there at the.
They went to the Force, and that was like 10 years ago.
It's a pretty good setup there in the Lady Balls facilities. But I don't know. I get like just to the event in and of itself. It's such a weird. It's like college sports. Like the athletes are the one people in the whole process that aren't making money.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just kind of like it's a huge. I mean, it's the same thing as my stupid event that I want to do down in the Hollow. That's all it is. If I can get it off, if I can do it well. It in and of itself may not make any money directly, but what it does for the periphery of businesses is the goal. You know, and so it's not, you know, as much as my soapbox derby is going to be serious, it's not like we're crowning the world champion of soapbox derbies or anything. It's just something fun to do to get people out and have a good time.
Right.
You know, and more, I guess most importantly to me is get people out, have a good time, and spend some money.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say. Like.
But again, like the World Cup and your Olympics are no different. It's just a huge money grab, and I think the host nation is like pretty far down on the list of who's grabbing money. Yeah. I think you've got the Olympic Committee or FIFA in and of itself. That's
you can get more like major sponsors that are in it to make more money off of it.
Yeah. And you got your major sponsors, and you got your developers and your contractors that are going to do a lot of work. They're going to make a ton of fucking money building all the shit out. Yeah. Now, they're probably down in the 50s or hundreds of the list of people that are making money, but it's really just a big cash-generating scheme. It's just who gets to cash in on it and how that reflects tax-wise and stuff like that. I guess I see it like, you know. But how's that much different than we do a TIF or a pilot here, I guess is my point. Like, we want some guy to build a development at Summit Hill and Gay Street, and we're going to say, hey, build the thing. We're not going to charge you the taxes that it would be applied to it for 30 years. You know, the city of Knoxville...
I wouldn't automatically assume that it's that same kind of thing.
The city of Knoxville doesn't reap the immediate rewards from it, but there's a bunch of periphery, and it doesn't cost them anything on the front end. Now, the Olympics and stuff does, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, it's just a different... It's a way to use the power and finances the government has available to them to try to earn money.
I don't know if you can really compare the two that closely. Like I said, our Knoxville Stadium, that's something that the city will retain in general. You know, they're building the stadium specifically for that team versus an Olympics, major sporting tournament. They're building it just for that specific one event that will not be ongoing.
Depends.
What do you mean depends?
It depends. Like we used Atlanta as a reference. When Atlanta hosted the Olympics, almost all of those facilities continued to get used. The Braves took one of them. The Falcons played football there. I'm sure Georgia Tech got some upgrades on facilities.
Georgia Dome was already there.
Did they use it for the Olympics?
Which they don't even use that anymore. It's now the Mercedes Stadium.
They got the new one, but at the time, because it was Turner Field before that,
right?
And they retired Turner Field and got an upgrade to whatever the one they used for the Olympics was. And so...
I think the Olympics turned into Turner Field.
Was that what it was? Anyway.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Point being is that it was a way for the city of Atlanta to get a whole bunch of upgrades and a whole bunch of different stadiums at the same time instead of doing them one at a time over a long series of plans. Because it wasn't Phillips back then, but wherever the Hawks and the Hurricanes, I guess, when the Hurricanes were there, that arena... Or Thrashers, sorry.
The Thrashers. The NHL team, yeah.
Yeah. But the Hawks have been there for fucking ever, and they got a new facility as part of the Olympics. And I bet a bunch of them are in Georgia Tech too.
I don't know.
So for that one, I think I would wager that a lot of the facilities get used and continue to get used, and maybe got sold into the private sector. I'm sure they built some hotels and stuff like that got sold in the private sector, or an apartment complex or something like that is now an affordable housing complex or something like that. I don't know. But if you do it right, I can see it as a good way to get a whole bunch of stuff built in a short window of time if you have long-term use for it, like Atlanta would, because they have enough pro teams to use it. And I could see, I think London does fine with it. They use Wembley anyway.
Right.
And they just did a big renovation of Wembley, but they didn't build a new Wembley stadium. But I mean, how many professional soccer teams play in the city of London?
Could say at least 3, I think.
Right. And that's just like what, top 2 tiers.
Well, I mean, you also kind of have that weird like metropolitan London as well.
Right. I'm just saying you have.
Like I think
the top tier.
I think Tottenham's considered. I would almost consider it part of London, but I think it's on like the outskirts.
Right. But they might have gotten a stadium upgrade as well. That's what I'm saying though. Like if you get like a New York, like we could bring it back to States. In New York, you build a new football stadium for the Giants and the Jets. You got
just
2 baseball
Jersey.
stadiums. Yeah, but it's still whatever. I mean, hell, like when they did. What was it?
I don't even know where the Giants stadium's at, but I doubt
it's the same stadium. They share.
What?
Jets Giants use the same stadium.
So they both play in Jersey.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In the Meadowlands. Yeah, but I mean, how do you?
I thought it was just fucking the Raiders and somebody else that were only teams that were sharing a stadium right now.
No, because the Raiders finished their move to Vegas. The Raiders and the Rams were sharing a stadium in LA for a
Raiders
couple
and the
of years.
Rams, yeah.
But when they finished their move to Vegas, it's the Chargers, the LA Chargers and the LA Rams are sharing a stadium.
Okay.
It's SoFi.
Yeah.
Why I know that right off the top of my head, I just do. But I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'll go back to the whole premise of these world events. I love World Cup. Don't get me wrong. I love the World Cup. I like the World Cup. But it's it's a big it's not, it's barely about the sport, or the Olympics are barely about the sports. It's just this big economic churning machine.
I don't think so.
I do.
That's not why I fucking watch it.
That's not why.
What little of what I watch.
That's not why I watch it either.
And I think that's why most people watch it. I think
it's not about why people watch it. But I mean, wrestling, like Greco-Roman wrestling. That is the closest thing to professional wrestling in a real sport context, not the entertainment wrestling.
Right.
That's the closest thing to professional wrestling, and people who are into wrestling are really excited about that event. But people who are not very much into wrestling but like watching Olympic stuff will watch it. I don't go and watch other wrestling events. I don't watch the national championships and shit like that. I did a couple years ago with that guy with one leg because that was a big story.
Yeah.
But
I would agree that for a very minute amount of people involved, yes, it is solely about the money, but I don't think the organizers are putting it on for the money.
I think that's the only reason the organizers are putting it on. I think that's just the sport, the events themselves are an excuse to put the event on, and that's how it's a profit-rearing enterprise.
I mean, I'll give it. It's that weird thing that it's at this point it's an expectation that it's going to happen every 4 years, and there's no real end in sight.
But I mean, I think for the Olympics.
So I mean, for anything, it's almost like in the tradition of it.
But the International Olympic Committee is making money. I think it's a profit-rearing enterprise. They're probably all non-profit organizations or whatever, but the people who work there are getting paid. And
yeah, should they work for free?
No.
Okay, so
but
you say it as if them getting paid is a bad thing, or lends to the just only sole profitability of it because they're working because they're getting paid.
If the people involved in the entirety of the process weren't making money, it wouldn't happen. Whether it's the people who work for the committee themselves, whether it's all the people that they get to go and do all the work and stuff like that.
Yes, such a major event like that, for someone to work it, yes, they are going to expect to get paid.
I'm articulating poorly. I don't know how to express my point. I don't.
Hey, maybe I just don't get your side of it. I'm sorry.
It's just not. It's not about the sports. It's about the people that make the money off of it, and this is the way that they make money. That's my take.
Sorry you feel like that. I wholly disagree with you on that.
Okay. Anyway,
I don't think the Olympics are put on every year just to make money, but I think it's because there's people at that professional level that want to compete at that professional level and want to compete against. I mean, you can make the argument that there are other like world tournaments that go on year in year out that are, you know, a world champion in this sport. But the Olympics is the fucking Olympics. It only happens every 4 years.
I agree.
Same thing with the World Cup. I mean, you have other major soccer tournaments that are nationally based, but it's the fucking World Cup.
There's a difference.
There is that prestige to it.
There's a difference in the Olympic record and the world record for a reason, because you can hold the world record, but you don't hold the Olympic record, even though your world record's better than the Olympic record, because you didn't do it at the Olympics, so you don't get the Olympic record.
Yeah.
I get that. So, anyway.
What else is going on?
I don't know. I got nothing. I'm running out of steam here. I know we missed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I know a bunch of shit happened.
Trying to think of anything crazy, interesting nationally.
I was listening to a story on the way in. Apparently China has bought up a bunch of Arizona farmland and has finagled some.
This is nothing new.
Has finagled some dealings with the water supply, and that they're taking, like in 1 month, they're taking what a 50,000 person city would consume in a year in water.
I've heard that in like many farms in like California as well, but
to grow alfalfa, because they need alfalfa for their cows back in China. So they're growing alfalfa, packing it up, and shipping it back to China to feed their cows. And apparently, I mean, there's a bunch of corruption and shit that was going on with it, and the new governor or something like that was like, we're done with this. So they like voided a couple of leases and shit like that these Chinese companies had on the land, or on the water rights and shit like that.
Right.
So
I've heard about it in many other places.
Yeah.
It always happens to be in like, you hear about it more in you know, quote unquote drought-stricken places of people that have the money to buy up that land, and then.
Was it the Waltons were trying to buy a bunch of water rights in Wyoming or something crazy like that? They're trying to buy like half the state of Wyoming's water.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, it's something weird. This is a couple years back. Which is a little different because at least they're U.S. citizens, so you have some legal authority over them. But this whole China thing's weird. Apparently, the different thing I was watching, like China has 40% of the world population, something crazy like that.
Huh? What?
China has like some.
Oh no! India outsurpassed them in population. I think that was like last year. So I'm pretty sure India surpassed them in.
Apparently, as big as China is, it's only like 10% of China. Or no, China only has 10% of the world's farmable land.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Or something like that. But they have like.
It's a large country, but yeah, a lot of it isn't.
Right. You know. Maybe I was mixing some stats. Anyway, like maybe it's like they have 15 or 20% of the world population.
Ain't no way they've got 40% of the world population. That would be ridiculous.
The moral of the story is
use your head. Come on.
Their percentage of the population is higher than their percentage of the farmable land available, and so they have to. That's one of the things they have to import. Or I don't know. I guess it's still an import if they grow alfalfa in Arizona and send it there, even though they're growing it themselves, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So it's a weird little, I don't know, it's just an interesting little stat that I totally fucked up because I couldn't remember what the percentages were. But the important part of the percentage is that the population is a higher percentage than their ability to grow food for. And so that was a crazy story I heard.
Oh, it's a crazy story. I guess there's some city, I guess it's close enough to the border that's getting portrayed by the right and many like major players on the right, a couple presidential candidates that are saying this is all like, you know, cartel owned like land, cartels buying up all this other shit, and they've like gone and like interviewed like a bunch of people that like live there. The guy was like, no, I guess it's not too far away from like Houston, but it's getting like spun as like this like super corrupt like new plan development
zone for all the drugs coming over the border.
It's cartel ran and blah blah blah. We're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, people literally live there. They're like, you're fucking crazy. Like, quit staying in this shit.
It's random. It's national politics. It's what are the odds that anybody's going to actually figure it out or take the time to figure it out?
That's what credible news organizations are for.
Yeah. Yeah. What was another one I heard? It was crazy. Apparently, juvenile sexual blackmail is on the rise. It's a thing. Apparently, it's like a catfishing game. Essentially, These people are finding like young boys, like 10, 12-year-old boys or whatever, online, starting like they're sending like some hot chick pictures and stuff like that, and talking to them and texting back and forth and all that kind of shit. And then like, oh, let me send you a picture. Send me a picture. And then they're blackmailing the kid because the kid doesn't want to tell his parents that this person's gonna put out his dick pics into the world or some shit. It's a really weird ass story.
About that. I did read that.
I actually paused it and made my eldest listen to it on the ride home from school today. I was like, I just wanted to listen to the story.
What?
He would be a target victim in said event.
I guess.
So the moral of the story, man, don't put your dick online. Don't send your dick pic. Don't send dick pics to anybody ever, or at least until you're an adult.
I was reading. I guess there's a proposed bill by a state Republican representative for I think it's like animal cruelty and like a couple other things, but it would basically prevent you from buying a weapon until you're like 24, and it's in the guise of, the scientific research of your brain's not fully developed until you're 23 or 24 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're just trying to meet some kind of middle ground with, trying to find some kind of gun control middle ground or whatever. But I guess there's somebody, I guess some of the Democrats have at least gotten behind it. They're like, we're not saying that we have, all the perfect answers, but, this is something we could get behind at least.
So if you have a juvenile record for animal abuse.
It was like animal cruelty or like, I guess any kind of like gun crime or whatever. Or some kind of like aggravated, violent crime. Right. If you're convicted of that, not necessarily as a juvenile, but I mean, I guess, maybe even, I'm not sure they talked about it. It might have been like 18 or under.
Right. All right. But I don't have the soundboard.
It would prevent you from until 24.
I don't have the soundboard here, so no, wrong one. News of the weird. Florida man story. Nudity.
Minnesota woman.
All right.
U.S. Customs official sees giraffe feces from woman at Minnesota airport.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Federal Customs agents poo-pooed the plans.
Puns.
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. It was an Iowa woman.
In Minnesota.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Who wanted to make jewelry from giraffe feces she picked up on a trip to Kenya and brought back to the U.S. in her luggage. The woman declared the small box of feces when she was selected to have her belongings inspected upon arriving at the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport.
That stinks.
According to U.S. Customs. The woman, who was not identified, told officials she planned to use the waste to make a necklace, and she had done in the past with moose poop. Let's see. Giraffe poop can be brought back to the U.S. with proper permits and inspections, according to Minnesota Public Radio. The station reported that the woman won't face sanctions because she declared the feces and gave it to Customs. So she at least turned it over.
Good for her.
The agency's agricultural specialist destroyed the giraffe poop. There is a real danger with bringing fecal matter into the U.S. If this person had entered the U.S. and had not declared these items, there is high possibility a person could have contracted disease with this jewelry and developed serious health issues.
I mean, is she selling it as giraffe shit?
Let's see.
Jewelry?
You got Africa.
Is she wearing it herself?
I'm assuming she's doing it for selling.
Oh, I would too. That's what I'm asking.
So we got African swine fever, classical swine fever, Newcastle disease, foot and mouth disease, and swine vesicular disease are among ailments in Kenya that Customs cited as risks.
All right, so what did we learn?
Don't play with the poop.
Don't bring your shit back.
Well, you do just make sure you got proper documentation.
All right. That's the show, people. I'm going to be editing in the outro music here in a second. Go online, get your almostinagreement.com, almostinagreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Try to get Matt Shears in to talk about some 24 people. We got a number of different people already in the mix, so we can get started talking about 24 already, because nobody cares about the 25 city elections anymore. The only race that I think has any real question is this judge race, and the Hill Parker race, but I think Parker's got that in the bag. But that's my opinion. It's not a fact. We'll have to see what the election does here in a couple weeks. So anyway, we're almost agreement, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to y'all soon.